Chapter 10, Cover Story 1. Smoking helps me concentrate. Did you know that the number one cause of houses burning down is people carelessly discarding cigarettes? In other words, people smoking without concentrating properly. Strange, really, if smoking improves concentration. Anyway, what actually is concentration? Concentration is simply the ability to focus on a task. Let's take one situation in which you would need to concentrate. Let's say you're filling in a boring official form. In fact, you're so bored at this second you feel that if you were about to die, someone else's life would flash in front of you. But it's not a major problem. The questions are tedious but not difficult. You're a smoker, but you're quite comfortable at this moment, or as comfortable as a smoker ever can be. You just want to get the form completed so you can do something that is a bit more fun. Then it happens. You suddenly get an awkward, unexpected question. Maybe it's asking for a piece of information you don't quite understand, or maybe it seems to be one of those questions designed to wheedle something out of you against your will. What happens is this: your mind suddenly feels worried, and your body reacts as it always has done by feeling physically tense. Your concentration is now gone. So what do you do? Well, if you're like most smokers, you have a cigarette. But what does it achieve? Well, if you've got nicotine-induced tension, it reduces this feeling for a little while, and your subconscious mind briefly feels less frightened. But if you haven't got nicotine-induced tension in the first place, how exactly have you reduced the stress by smoking? You haven't. Even official scientific reports state clearly that nicotine does not reduce genuine stress in the slightest. If it did, there would be no need to spend billions developing drugs like Prozac and Valium. Has the cigarette magically filled in the right answer for you? Has the nicotine inspired you to remember a piece of crucial information? No. All you've done is sow the seeds of full-blown physical tension in about an hour's time. The biggest problem I face when exposing this particular cover story is that the truth is so spectacularly opposite to the cover story that it's difficult to avoid going overboard attacking it. The reason smokers believe that smoking aids concentration is, ironically, that smoking destroys concentration. If this sounds like a contradiction, you need to look at the facts again. If you feel a sensation that your brain mistakes for stress or fear, of course it destroys your ability to concentrate on what you were doing. That's the entire purpose of fear. It's there to make you deal with a perceived threat, so why would it let you concentrate on what you were already doing? But, as surprising as it may sound, your concentration hasn't been destroyed by the sensation at all. It's been destroyed by the fact that your brain has confused the sensation with genuine stress or fear. Millions of people concentrate perfectly well while suffering far bigger problems than the vague sensation of tension caused by nicotine. What about deaf people? What about blind people? What about people who spend their lives suffering from arthritis or tinnitus, or one of 1,000 more problematic conditions than the painless physical tension you get from smoking? Your subconscious mind keeps crying out for more nicotine for two reasons. Firstly, it interprets the delayed sensation caused by nicotine as fear because that's what it feels like. Secondly, as a result of the confusing time delay between the cigarette and the tension, it misses the fact that smoking is the sole cause of this sensation. By the time you end your affair with cigarettes, this simply won't be the case anymore. Your subconscious mind will know that this sensation will be restarted if you smoke another cigarette. It will also know that even though the delayed effects of nicotine feel like stress or fear, they're nothing of the kind. You'll therefore feel no need to panic or to create a fake explanation for this sensation, because you'll know the reason for it: smoking. I used to respond to almost everything by lighting up. It was absolutely ridiculous. When I had a beer, when I had a coffee, when I had an argument, when I watched a film, when I played pool, when I played cards, when I was trying to impress a woman on a date, my desire to smoke was like a nicotine hair trigger. Now, absolutely nothing can trigger a desire to smoke. It's not because I'm strong or because I have willpower, and it's certainly not because I'm particularly clever, which I promise you I'm not. I've struggled for more than a year to write this book. It's got nothing to do with any of this. It's quite simply that when my mind thinks of smoking, it automatically knows what the result of it would be: a total absence of pleasure or relaxation, followed by a delayed feeling of tension that would then last about 4 days before fading away permanently. A smoker recently asked me, "This is all very well, but what will I do in the future instead of smoking?" I hate to admit it, but I immediately burst out laughing and was forced to apologize. It wasn't so much the question, it was the hangdog facial expression which accompanied it, as though breathing smoke in order to get nicotine were the most natural thing in the world. In fact, it's a perfectly reasonable question to someone whose mind believes that smoking is a natural reaction to stress. So here's the answer. As a smoker, whenever the idea of a cigarette occurs to you, there are two possibilities. Either you can smoke or you can't smoke. If you can't smoke, let's say you're in a meeting or on a plane or in a non-smoker's car, the fake chemical stress is immediately joined by real stress because you can't smoke. On the other hand, if you can smoke, you're forced to go through the hassle of physically smoking in order to simply reset a feeling of chemical stress to a lower level, which will then instantly start growing all over again. Either way, you end up stressed as a result of thinking about cigarettes. Here's what happens to me. Whenever the idea of a cigarette even enters my head, I get an immediate feeling of immense relief and pleasure that I'm no longer under the spell of the nicotine trick, and that I no longer have the underlying feeling of chemical tension caused by smoking. This intensely pleasurable thought causes stress-reducing chemicals to be released into my bloodstream. In other words, I have physically done something instead of smoking. I've taken massive pleasure from the idea of cigarettes in a way which I never once achieved in 20 years of smoking. What's more, I can do it in the middle of a meeting. I can do it on a plane. It costs absolutely nothing, and it happens as an automatic result of exactly the same mental impulse which used to cause me to smoke. Even better, I can enjoy it 1,000 times in a single day if I want. How many cigarettes could you smoke in a day, even if they worked? Exactly. That's why I make a point of thinking about cigarettes as much as possible. Have you ever seen that TV advert where you are shown part of a scene in which a man sprints towards another man and wrestles him to the ground? It appears that a vicious attack has just taken place. Then the scene is shown again for a split second longer. This time, immediately after the man is wrestled to the ground, a huge crate smashes into the ground where he was standing a moment previously. The first man wasn't attacking him at all. He was saving his life. The entire meaning of what just happened is changed by a single moment of extra knowledge. Suddenly, you feel differently about the first man. He's not a thug, he's a hero. While you're a smoker, time and time again you're missing those extra few moments of crucial footage. Millions upon millions of smokers have died without seeing them. All they ever saw was the moment where the chemically induced tension eased slightly after the first drag of a cigarette. But they completely missed what happened afterwards. They failed to see that the sensation of physical tension was caused by smoking every single time. They died trapped inside a cage of ignorance. Every time they ever smoked, their subconscious minds reacted perfectly, but only to a tiny, isolated part of the picture, and it killed them. They died trying to rid themselves of a sensation that would have gone away by itself in about 4 days if only they'd stopped smoking. What a ludicrous situation to actually die from such a simple misunderstanding. The billions of dollars spent each year by the tobacco industry is being spent swamping you with images that have one purpose and one purpose only: to make sure that under no circumstances will your subconscious brain ever be allowed to see that critical extra footage, the footage you've now seen in this book. But, unfortunately for them, it's too late. You've seen it. Let's look at the next cover story. Cover story 2. Smoking makes me confident. A few years ago, I was out of work for 6 months, during which time I became exceedingly overweight after developing a highly unfortunate fascination with pizzas. This was no problem for me because, as a smoker, I knew I was damaging myself so much with cigarettes that pizzas would only increase my chances of dying young very slightly. It's one of the shining advantages of smoking. Every few days, I would start salivating like a rabid dog, and I'd phone the local pizza place to order a 17-inch cardiac surprise or something similar with extra pepperoni. I'd wash it down, or as far down as it would go, with an ocean of beer, and then I'd celebrate this momentous achievement with a cigarette. After just a few weeks, I began to realize that something strange was happening to my washing machine. I know it sounds strange, but it seemed to be selectively shrinking all my trousers and underpants, while leaving my socks exactly the same size. Even weirder, it was shrinking just the collars on my shirts without touching the cuffs or sleeves. It was a technical fault I have never encountered before or since. Ever the optimist, I managed to persuade myself that I was the victim of nothing more sinister than cheap Taiwanese engineering. Just like my physique, the situation was destined to go pear-shaped. A few weeks later, I was walking around in the local town center, and I suddenly walked straight into an ex-girlfriend, one I hadn't seen for several years. You must understand that when I was seeing this girl, I'd been almost 2 stone lighter and in gainful employment. She stammered something at me, I stammered something at her, and we both blushed. I knew that she was shocked by my lard-stricken appearance, and I was equally mortified that she was there to see it. After a semi-mumbled conversation, we parted and I immediately smoked 2 cigarettes. Why? It was the domino or dominoes effect. My shattered confidence made me feel anxious. My subconscious mind concluded that smoking would make me feel less anxious, so I smoked. On the positive side, my pizza fixation was fixed. The next day, I started cautiously dieting, although the smoking made it impossible for me to exercise. As an added bonus, my washing machine began to get better by itself. Why would being a pathetic, cringing, confused, outsmarted cigarette smoker make anyone feel confident? Why would any human being feel good about falling for a trick so mundane that even lab rats can't be forced to fall for it? Why would anyone believe the Hollywood image of Bruce Willis in Die Hard or Kim Basinger in LA Confidential? Do you really think most movie stars smoke in real life? Why do you think Los Angeles has one of the lowest rates of smoking anywhere in the world? Because they're obsessed with their looks. Either get with the program or prepare to take the consequences. Take responsibility for your own mind, or the tobacco industry will be more than happy to do it for you. When you're smoking a cigarette, you're not demonstrating independence, courage, or poise. You are demonstrating stupidity, anxiety, and weakness. You are putting your phobia on show for the entire world to see. Is that how you want to live the rest of your life? Beating the nicotine trick is the best thing I've ever done in my life. Beating the nicotine trick didn't just give me the information needed to write this book, it also gave me the confidence. I had no confidence before. I had no reason for confidence. Okay, I had friends, I had my somewhat bizarre sense of humor, I had my life, but what sort of life is so fragile that running out of cigarettes can turn it into a total nightmare? What sort of life has you terrified of getting a sore throat because you know you'll be forced to make it even worse with smoking? What sort of life has you continually forced to plan for the next cigarette and desperate to avoid situations that will expose your stupidity, gullibility, and weakness? What sort of life has you forced to lie to yourself every single day? What sort of life has you wondering whether the next cigarette will be the one that starts lung cancer? What sort of life has you looking over your shoulder year after year, waiting for a shadowy figure to put his hand on your arm? Confidence? From smoking? Get real. I now have the confidence to shake hands with people who have smoked tens of thousands of cigarettes, look them in the eyes, and tell them I can finally explain why they're doing it. Let's take a look at the next cover story. Cover story 3. Smoking stops me putting on weight. This is an absolute beauty. When a smoker looks at me and says, "I'll put on weight if I stop smoking," I always feel a strange sense of unreality. It's like speaking to a person inside a person. When smokers say this to me, there is always a look in their eyes, one that seems to plead with me, one that seems to say, "Please stop me believing this lunacy." So let me do just that. When you were born, you weighed just a few pounds, so it's safe to say that most of the weight you've put on in your life has been harmless. But when smokers talk about putting on weight in the context of stopping smoking, what they really mean is that they're scared of overeating. So let's take a look at this. There are two main reasons why people don't want to overeat. One is vanity and the other is fear of the health consequences. But if you're a smoker, surely you've already proved that neither of these matter to you. So why would you be scared of putting on weight? Think about it. If you smoke, your breath stinks, whatever you think. Your skin is damaged, your eyes are dull, your hair has been stripped of nutrients, and your habit is an object of disgust and embarrassment to most non-smokers. So why do you care about putting on weight, whether it's a result of stopping smoking or anything else? Why would being overweight be worse than inhaling radioactive smoke into your lungs and exhaling the residue all over other people? But